What do you think about this place? Muara Angke. Everyone knows about the seafood, yummy seafood. But behind that, there's a slum, a squatter. Can you please dim it a little bit? Thank you. And behind that, there is a settlement of 70,000 people who live mainly from preparing your seafood, preparing your salted fish. This is the largest saltfish industry in Southeast Asia. But what's the story about this place? I know since 2012, I've been assisting the government of DKI with rethinking about how to restore the slums. You know, if we are eager to have improvement, if we are eager to have challenge and change, new chances in our life, we have to prepare our vessel. We have to make space for improvement. Because without the right attitude, even the best chance is turned futile. Let's learn from Muara Angke. After 4 decades of neglect, finally, the new government, the authority has found a commitment, has found a team to make a commitment, serious commitment to improve this living condition. Hundreds of series of this kind of social housing were designed by award-winning architects from Holland. They were my friends. Somehow, during the socialization, there's a miscommunication. I don't know what happened. I was not involved in this project in the first place. But while they were socializing these projects, not a thank you, but a riot they got. Instead of a handshake, they gave thousands of fingerprints with blood. And this is what happened. Hundreds of motorcycles are surrounding the building of the government and almost burning it down, almost turning it over. And the team who designed that are being threatened with death. And at that time, I was called by Skype. I lived in Holland. And then they asked me, Pauline, you have been threatened by death several times in Africa, in Kenya, and in Papua, in Madura. There are so many places when you face death and you escape death. Would you be willing to negotiate once more? And then I asked my family, and they said, okay, you can go. But what would you do? Would you see that as a challenge? Would you see that as a new chance? Would you dare to take it? I said yes. So 1 week after the riot, I came there. I do not see mobs, preman, but I saw people who are the victim of neglection by the government. I see people who are crying for the generation, crying for their living condition. But I said to them, why are you organizing new riots then? I said, if you don't have the right attitude, even the best intention of the people who wants to help you improve your living condition will turn futile, just like this. And during the negotiation, I made this poster, and I showed them, look, this is what you have right now, and this is what you could have for your sons and daughter. And they said, well, we already have what we want. We have stayed here for 4 decades, and this is what we want. And I said, think better and look into your heart. Do you really, really want to risk your life with this, for this? And look at what your kids are having daily. And I said, Your kids never knew anything better than this. This is their life. This is their adventure. While the government was offering this through the design of thematic building, specifically designed for fishermen community. And sometimes the way to open their perspective is by presenting the sheer difference about what your mindset and what the logic is. I said, look at Waduk Angke, this water reservoir, has not been visited by the government to clean it up for 3 years, and you stayed silent. How come? One thing what I learned, people who are living in such condition, they are like being blamed for being ungrateful, but actually they are also a victim for their own mindset, for their own ignorance. I said, look, if I put a fish, living fish inside, they only survive for 50 seconds before seeing their creator again. Can you imagine that those kids from Muara Angke, they're supposed to live from this kind of water reservoir? Finally, 4 years after my negotiation with the government, someone asked to clean it up. It took 4 years to beg the government. But that's not the only story. You know, when such things happen, people are taking advantage. Private sector, owned by a very famous person, is providing water because the government cannot provide the facility. So they are selling clean water 10 times, 20 times the price of what pump facilitate because of the neglection. And the poor and the uneducated, they don't have any choice. What else can they do? Just pay 10 times, then pump. Pay 20 times when there is an emergency, when there is disaster. We pay for 1 cubic meter like 9,000, 8,000 rupiah. But there in Muara Angke, they paid sometimes 100, 150,000 each cubical meter. Otherwise, they have to tap from the resource, the water resource like that. And you think that's livable? And that's why we need some bureaucracy reform. And that's why when the government decide to assist and to form a special team to make a breakthrough, because reformation is really thinking out of the box and breaking, dividing walls between the dinas, between the agency of the government. You know, during my involvement from 2012 until 2017, I have conducted and coordinated cross division from housing, from water treatment, and also platform for urban design, urban planning. I connect them all and having them meet together with me only with one topic, Rumah Susun Muara Angke. Rumah Susun Nelayan Muara Angke. 76 times during 4 years. And I don't know, I don't want them to send people from their staff. I want the head of the division to come and to cooperate with me. And that's what transformation of bureaucracy means. Even the professors and the urban design researchers are coming to Indonesia to learn from the government of DKI at that time. And also the Dutch media are spending so many hours researching an in-depth interview, knowing what's the DKI of Jakarta doing for the poorest among the poor. Also Indonesian Andi Noya shedding some light upon this topic. And then it's time to go home. At that time, I lived 24 years in Holland, and then after all the negotiation, I went home. For 24 years, I lived in such a social house, student house. And then the last 2 years, our family got the chance to buy a big house. But at that time, start our dilemma. How can I be engaging myself to renovate, to plan the interior when these kind of picture are coming back into my mind? Those exterior never changed for decades. Kulit kerang. The smell is enormous. And this is their interior, fish gut, from their living room up to next the bedroom where the baby sleeps. And how can I settle down peacefully in my new house while thinking that I've left my heart with those fishermen? How can I enjoy and harvest our first harvest when thinking about these kind of trees? Almost all trees in Muara Angke will die within 2-3 weeks because of millions house flies, actually, that attack the industry of salt fish. How can I be happy and not thinking about, can't somebody else do something about the kids that having this? Other city kids are playing with the slimy things, the slime. But these Muara Angke kids are plunging themselves headfirst, full body, into that black, slimy water that forms their world. While for my kids, they're sitting right there. For my kids, it's just a few hours drive to London, to Paris, 5 hours drive. But for these kids, they could ride for years in the same tuk-tuk, in the same odong, and only being confronted by the project that affected their family in the first place. One night, as an architect, I was spending time alone, reading, writing, and that was around 3 o'clock in the morning, way past midnight. I was still sipping my coffee in the backyard while enjoying a romantic full moon. Suddenly, there's a voice. Romantic, eh? Romantic only because of the full moon? Imagine what a romantic full moon can do in your home country. This is the scenery 3 days before and 3 days after the romantic full moon. This is the tidal lunar flooding. Look how they persevered to get to school. After that last comparison, I could not stand any other comparison. We packed our things, 1 container full, and in the port of Rotterdam, sending it toward the port of Jakarta. After months of preparation, after all the farewell parties, come the last hugs. So Grace, my daughter, saying goodbye, and afterward, I saw that why is there sadness in her laughter? How come? And it really crushed my heart to my innermost being. I said, oh, I'm doing my purpose. I'm answering my calling. But my kids, there's so much sadness in her laughter. And there's still small voice in my heart telling, relakan. Just allow it. Allow her that there is a little bit of sadness in her laughter, so that in the sadness of the kids from Muara Angke, there would be some laughter. And that is what brought us back home. After 26 years spending time in Holland, finally I got to come home in 2014. And would you see that as an opportunity? Would you see that as new chance, new challenge to leave your nest? Would you be willing to do that? You know, after all the sacrifice, you're doing that for people who might not know how to be grateful to you, who might not know to evaluate your sacrifice. Would you still be willing to do that? I've spent hundreds of hours in the musola of Muara Angke, in the house of the Ustad, in the house of the Marbot, and doing some education for the people. And also we set up a football academy for the people in Muara Angke, for the kids in Muara Angke. And then after nearly 9 months, what do you expect? An applause, a standing applause? For our case, our family, hardship came 9 months later. Because I brought my kids to Muara Angke and to other garbage dump site, there's been an attack of a virus, and then the body system of my kids did not recognize that as the enemy. They said, which one is the enemy? And they chose the wrong one. So they, instead of attacking the virus, they attacked the pancreas. So for my daughter, these last 4 years, she has been struggling between life and death because of that illness. She had to prick her own finger to test the blood glucose every time before she eat. And she had to inject herself with insulin before each meal. And I said, this 11-year-old child has to endure so many hardships. But I think, hey, she's alive and kicking, and there she is. I said, isn't that a miracle in itself? After many days of coma in the ICU, in the emergency, isn't that life itself is a miracle? And my daughter Grace said, as long as I am still hoping and praying and waiting for the miracle to happen, I decide to become a miracle myself. So she traveled with me, meeting all the governors, all the regions in many islands in Indonesia, and she's delivering message of hope and restoration for the country, for the nations, for many tribes. And she's also preaching for the kids coming to the madrasah, coming to the pesantren. It's different when a police said, stay away from drugs, stay away from cigarette, stay away from alcohol. It's different when the one preaching is a child. He said, oh, your mom has been expecting you for 9 months, giving you the best nutrition. And now you are born, you're enjoying yourself, and you start smoking cigarette? What kind of valuation is that towards your mom? So that comes in differently when a child tells you that. And that's what I want to say about if life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. If life gives you dirt, you make fertilizer. And when life gives you dust and tears, just shut up your shell, shut it up, and present a pro later on. That aligns with the mentality of an eagle. You know, eagle needs storm to keep them afloat, needs storm for a high altitude. And that's why I told them, swift is stormy weather is free transport. Who loves a new altitude and new perspective? We all do. Keep soaring, eagles. Thank you for your time.